This is the Area 51M from Alienware. It's their latest and greatest flagship. It's their biggest laptop, it's their most expensive. It's very powerful, running the latest hardware, newest design. It's their flagship. It's smaller than I thought it would be. Like when you look at pictures, it's kind of hard to see scale. It's big, don't get me wrong, this isn't like a super portable device, but it's smaller than I thought it would be based on pictures that I saw at CES. So the design of this thing is very Alienware. I personally really like this design. They've clearly spent time in making their product look and feel very unique. The unit I have is in this lunar white color. It's this kind of light gray color, almost white, but not like stark white. It's also a soft touch finish, which is nice to hold. I am a little concerned about long-term durability of this particular color. Like if you have, I don't know, if you're Mr. Cheetos and you're constantly dipping your fingers in like colored items, I could see the surface dirtying up over time, but if you take care of it, I think it's a really nice looking finish. The build quality feels very good. It's very Alienware-like. Like this is a device that just feels very tanky. There's no flex on the chassis. This is what Alienware does. This is probably their specialty. They have heavier devices, but their stuff is built very well. The logo up at the front lights up, it's their alien head, but aesthetically, the attraction to this device for me is definitely the light up trim on the tail end of the device. The lighting here looks really cool to me. It's kind of like the engine of an alien spaceship or something. I think they did a really good job, and honestly, if this device was just like a plain generic looking black box, the truth is people probably wouldn't be giving this thing as much attention as it gets, but because it looks as cool as it does, here we are. There is glossy plastic on the front of the device and also on the trim, like just around the bezels of the screen, and I really don't like that they use this material. This is just material that can get scratched very easily, so it's unfortunate that they used it. I feel like over time, if you don't take care of it, this will look aged quite quickly compared to the rest of the device. So the ports on the Area 51M are kind of limited. I feel it's got like the same number of ports as a 15-inch device. It's got 3 USB-A's and then 1 Thunderbolt 3. And even on a device this large, it doesn't have an SD card slot. For the people that are buying devices like this, they don't need an SD card slot, so I get it. Like they don't really need to put it in, but I would have liked to have seen it because there are people that can make use of it. Now, if you'll notice on the back, there's 2 AC adapter sockets. And we've seen devices like this before, devices that require 2 power connections, but this time they're 2 different sizes. There's a 330 watt and a 180 watt. And this is just for this particular configuration, but the fact remains you do need 2 AC adapters to run this thing at full power. I don't like that. I gotta be honest. I understand why they did it. Like you can't have AC adapters that are larger than 330 watts in some regions. So to make this thing an international device, they have to do this, but it just makes this device so much less portable. Despite its size, now you have to carry 2 large AC adapters. It can run off of just one, like the 330 watt will power this, but it won't be full performance. It's more for, I don't know, if you need to go somewhere real quick and you just need to bring something, at least you can use it with just one adapter. So there's 2 speakers on the front, very nice sounding speakers. It's Alienware, their flagship devices usually have great sounding speakers, and these are no exception. They have very rich sound and they're well positioned. The keyboard is a classic Alienware keyboard. It's got plush travel, good keyboard for gaming. I don't like the positioning of the page up and page down keys. This is something that's bothered me on a lot of Alienware keyboards, but I think most people will enjoy this keyboard for gaming. Same with the touchpad. It's kind of a standard Alienware touchpad, dedicated hardware buttons, Windows precision drivers. The inputs are good on this device, and you have full control of lighting and software. Performance on the Area 51M is excellent. It's running an 8-core desktop-grade CPU, the 9900K, and it's running a desktop-grade GPU, the RTX 2080. Not like a laptop RTX 2080, but a almost full wattage RTX 2080 from a desktop, all packaged into here. And both of those components, the CPU and the GPU, are upgradable. That's what makes this thing so unique. Playing games on this thing is fantastic. It has awesome performance, ultra fast frame rates, ray tracing support. It's basically a very powerful desktop system inside of this thing. Now I will say I have used other powerful laptops before, right? We've seen the Predator 21X, we've seen stuff from MSI that are also very big and very powerful, but for some reason this doesn't feel like a big and bulky system when you're playing games on it. I'm not sure if it's like the thin bezels on the screen or the ergonomics of the wrist rest, but it just feels like a regular laptop when you're playing with it. Now when you're carrying it around, that's a completely different story, especially with the 2 AC adapters. It is very large, but playing on it, it's a comfortable gaming experience. It also benchmarks like a beast. Like there's not much else out there that can compare to this in the laptop market right now. And the GPU scores are very close to the desktop RTX 2080 scores. It's pretty nutty. In regards to thermals, I would say I'm content. This is a very unique device in terms of what Alienware was trying to deliver. It's running a desktop CPU, desktop GPU, both of those very high wattage, and they just run extremely hot. If you're expecting excellent thermals on like quiet fans, it's not gonna happen. Your system will stay quiet, but you're gonna throttle in games. And same with boost clock. If you want this thing to be running at max turbo on all cores, it's like, this is not that system for it. So if you crank the fans on this thing and you crank it up to maximum fan speed, you will get good thermal performance. They're gonna run loud, but the temperatures are good even after several hours of heavy gaming. And on one hand, I'm impressed that they're able to cool that CPU in this particular chassis, but on the other hand, it is an overclockable CPU, and there's a part of me that thinks if you're gonna put that CPU into this chassis and give users overclocking options in the software, it should be able to, but there was no amount of undervolting and tweaking that I could do in the software to get a substantial overclock on this particular chip. On a desktop, I've seen that chip go really hard, but not on this chassis, and it kind of makes me question the whole idea of even using a desktop chip in a laptop in the first place. Like, if it's not giving you really substantial gains, is it really worth it? Now, the GPU is overclockable as well, and I'm able to get decent performance increases with that. Okay, I want to take a look at the insides. To get access to the standard stuff, you just remove the bottom panel. You get access to your RAM, your drives, and your Wi-Fi card. But to get access to the good stuff, you got to remove a little bit more. You got to pop off a bunch of screws, disconnect a few cables. It's not super hard. It's like a 15-20 minute job. But inside you'll see the CPU socket and the GPU. The CPU is a desktop LGA socket. You can swap that out whenever you want, if you want. The graphics card, however, is a custom Dell form factor. So if you want to upgrade that in the future, you're gonna have to buy that directly from Dell. There does seem to be some confusion in regards to the upgradeability of these devices. I've seen some discussions saying that the RTX 2060 config, like the base config, can't be upgraded in the future because it doesn't have like the ventilation on the side. And I reached out to Dell, they say that's not the case. All the devices will have side ventilation and all devices can be upgraded in the future. That being said, I do have some thoughts in regards to the upgradeability of this device. It sounds awesome on paper, right? The idea of an upgradable laptop has been like everybody's dream, but in this particular scenario, the CPU socket that they're using is like, it's the LGA 1151, and by the time a substantial upgrade appears in the CPU segment, we don't know if that will use the same socket. Like it may not, and it's a bit of a gamble if you're gonna purchase this laptop with the intent of upgrading the CPU in the future. The GPU upgradability is something that I think is great. That's something that just makes a lot more sense to me, but the CPU upgradability is, I'm not sure on that. The battery life is short. I'm getting an hour and a half of battery life with the screen at 250 nits. I can't say I'm surprised, like these are desktop components being run off a battery, right? That's never gonna give you long battery life. Tobii eye tracking. This is a feature that is on a lot of the Alienware flagships. I don't think it's particularly useful, but there are sensors that track where your eyes are looking at on the screen. I know that some esports teams use it for training and stuff like that, but I personally have never found something useful with it. The screen, 17-inch, 1080p. There's supposedly some higher res options that'll come out later this year once manufacturers start making some thin bezeled higher res panels, but right now you only get 1080p. Personally, I don't mind. Like, I feel like for most gamers out there, 1080p is where it's at. Like, if you look at many of the popular streamers or pro gamers out there, they're often running 1080p panels, and this particular panel is pretty bright and color accurate, and it supports G-Sync. Now, I want to wrap this video up with my own personal thoughts on the Area 51M. This is a very powerful gaming laptop. It's the most powerful gaming laptop that I've used. It's awesome for video editing. It's awesome for gaming, but I don't know if the extra performance that you get from this device really warrants the extra cost, the extra weight, the extra fan noise. Like, there's a lot of stuff you have to deal with if you're gonna use this system. Now, the upgradeability on it is awesome. Like, it's something I think is gonna draw a lot of people to it, but you gotta carry these things around. 2 huge AC adapters to power something like this because it really is a desktop in a laptop form factor. And this thing is crazy power hungry. You boot it up, stuff just goes